Okay, so I think I've fixed my little mic scratchy thing that happened, so it should be good. Today was a really interesting day, and what it actually means for the market is uncertainty. We're going to catch a lot more volatility since it's October, and what you see if you look at what happened today is that morning we opened down. Actually, we came down in the morning. I think. Let me actually open up the 15 on this. Yeah. Okay. So here we are. So we opened down for like a few seconds. We received this massive candle that brought us right back up, back down, up through, and then we closed more or less basically where we opened. Now, right now the market is up a little bit. If you see the ES where it's at 2940, but look at it on the daily chart, you see that we have a right here with fairly powerful selling pressure. That's what this wick means here. So we do have some pretty powerful selling pressure. The volume isn't spectacular. If it were, that would have been really because that would mean there's participation in both sides, but getting is just some minor selling off and buying up. The run up, the pop actually happened because China said that they were ready to make a deal with the US. So here are our notes for the day. So China says they're ready to make a deal with the US. The US also is not. Navarro and Trump do not want to go ahead and take this deal just yet. What I think they'll probably do, I would imagine that in order to, half of this is to actually put each country at an advantage, but the other half is, once again, I believe artificial pumping is a legitimate thing that's going on right now. And so one of the things I'm thinking is that they will end up reaching some sort of deal, potentially, probably not. They might, but it won't be large. They're probably going to leave a lot left in order for more deals to happen. This is not, I don't think, over just yet, especially because Powell and the Fed still have to meet on October 30th to determine whether or not they're going to end up cutting rates again. And the rates cutting, the futures pricing and the rate cuts are still at 70% towards a rate cut happening, either a quarter cut or a half point cut. So that's what we'll see in the next. What's today? Today is the 7th. So in about 23 days, we'll find out whether or not that will be happening. Today, Powell spoke around, I believe, 12 o'clock my time. They also, Powell will be speaking at a meeting minutes, not a Fed meeting, tomorrow and Wednesday as well. So what that means for the market, I mean, I don't think that the market is taking it really that heavily. It's taking it to some extent, but not huge. I mean, most of this is due to, This is due to the news from China, and then the come down was probably as a result of the market not believing that this will carry through. The idea that Navarro aren't buying this, so that's what we got. Up isn't huge, but it's something. It's there, and I do want to acknowledge that it does seem like we might actually still have a chance at going green, but it does look a lot now, and that's interesting. Now, that earlier, I still fairly believe that this pull up from the TTM squeeze will end up happening. That'll be really interesting if that does carry through, because then I can start taking in high level positions. So what I'm going to be doing for this week, because one of the biggest things right now is that we don't know what is going to happen this month. We are seeing a lot of volatility. You see that giant spike up and then spike back down. That's volatility. The market is uncertain, and it's proving that over and over again. So what we want to see is really big volume in a single direction. We don't want volatility. This wicking that's happening, we don't want that anymore. We want it to go outside of this wicking range and follow through like it did these last few days. So, like for example, Right here, let me fix this. Right here, we see very minimal wicking. We see straight direction through and through on the day. We saw similar time. There was some volatility. This was the ISM, but if you remove this, imagine that this did not happen. You can actually see this carries through quite naturally. The wicking is fairly minimal. We have some resistance at 290, which is normal, and then it comes back up, closes above 290, and we keep going. Right today, the market closed at 293. We are now at 294 again, above where we anticipated. Now, what we're going to be looking for tomorrow is, again, high volume. We're definitely going to see some sort of volatility. Actually, you know what? I'm hesitant to say this, but we might actually not see as much volatility tomorrow. We might actually see just a straight directional. I think it's possible that the S&P will lead straight up towards at least to where the high of today was 295. 295 is a level, so it does make sense that was something that had difficulty crossing. So that is something that you want to pay attention to. Now, as for the things that I played today I saw Nvidia. Oh Lord, this right here towards the end of the day, when I saw this, and then when I saw that the volume was quite a bit above average, I thought immediately that Nvidia puts are very smart right now. If you can see that it did behave similarly to SPY, but instead this one actually closed below. This one had a straight upward fly and then came right down. And so that is really interesting to me because Nvidia has been on a very powerful run. This was a 4% move. This was an undecided move, but then it hit basically a high for this range, and it's probably going to come back down. That's why I have so many lines here, is because this range is really, really powerful. So it's been in this range back and forth for quite a long time. So right there, you see this? We've been here since 11/16. So almost 8. What month is it now? Not 11 months ago. 11 months ago, almost a year ago, we've been stuck in this same area, and we're finally starting to close upwards into this area. So we're in the new area of the range, but I think we might actually be catching it again downward, but it could pull up once again fairly soon. So my price target is probably around these EMAs, maybe below. I was actually thinking that at most it's probably going to fall back down to 180, 181, and then probably continue on its trend. But we'll have to see. I want to see what kind of volume we get with this position. So that is what I'm looking at right now. That's what I'm in currently. Additionally, I'm in a Apple credit spread from the top. So this one moved quite a bit. I'm up 40% on it already. This right here, once we hit the high, it bounced right off 230. Apple is making new highs. This is the highest Apple's ever been. This is the ATH. And it did follow the market today. Everything kind of followed the market fairly strongly. Amazon did the same. I believe Amazon came down, came up. Yep, it followed fairly similarly. And that's fine for what I'm considering is still market uncertainty. So we don't know if this week is going to be up or down or anything, actually. We could be sideways the whole week, which is a very strong possibility. Today was actually quite slow in the way of, apart from this, which happened within the first about hour and a half, it got fairly slow for a while and then started tanking down. It wasn't exactly exciting because there wasn't any ridiculous volume move going on. So it really wasn't that interesting today. BABA though popped, I think, higher than anything else as a result of this move. It moved 3% almost, 2.6%. In lieu of that news, and that's something that it makes a little bit of sense because BABA is a Chinese stock, so it elucidates some of the information between the U.S. and China. I don't know what I'm going to do about this. BABA had a very clear daily short, so you could have day traded an option here. You could have very easily known, like, okay, hey, this move was based on this piece of news. It was all that happened was Kudlow had said that Chinese stocks aren't being delisted. I think that might have been yesterday. Yep, sorry. So yeah, but this is just kind of a relation between China and the U.S. One thing I do really like looking at right now is the TLT. The TLT coming down is indicative of a few things. One of those things being how much faith the market is putting into bonds as of right now. These are the 20-year bonds, like I've said earlier. They are coming up right now with the market. So there is no divergence, and that's what we want to look for right now, is divergence in the market. Now, TLT is still in an up run, but it will likely, take some sort of support and keep going upwards, because that's the way that we're running right now. I mean, TLT has been on a climb, so I do expect to see TLT keep going up. I'll probably end up taking credit spreads out of the 243 area, sell those puts, and collect on that for the week fairly well. And I'm currently, also I think I said earlier, I'm in Apple credit spreads. I'm looking into McDonald's credit spreads right now because I don't think it's going to be holding up here anymore. I think it's going to start coming down. McDonald's is a value stock, so the way that moves is a bit different. You can see it right here. It did not move the same as the rest of the market. This is just, so it climbed up, and the way that it climbed up, I think, was enough for me to think that, okay, so I don't think McDonald's will be moving very much this week, and either way, that means I can be right. I'm not going to play an Iron Condor for this, because that would tie up too much capital, and it's not really worthwhile to me right now to do something like that. But it is something that is going to, I think, work out in my favor. I'll put it at this high of 2 for 13 as it comes down. Like I said, the market's very uncertain. That McDonald's could come down, and that could be the whole thing that brings it down. But Apple seems to be the thing that is mostly carrying the market. For example, and this is really interesting. So Apple is back at it at all-time highs, but then Amazon is nowhere near its all-time highs. See, it has come straight down. It's very close to the S&P 500. Additionally, I want to look at Roku. Roku does not follow the market at all. Not at all. And that is something that I do really like, because this is where we have some divergence. Now, Roku moving too volatilely, I wasn't able to day trade this at all. And I didn't really have a chance to take a look at it in that regard. So I didn't, but I think Roku is going to be interesting to either sell or buy premium on, depending on how it starts to move for the rest of the time. These levels are holding up for the stock, so you could probably certifiably sell these 103 puts, things of that nature. I think another thing I should have paid attention to a little bit strongly, AMD did not move exactly the same way as the market. It did at some level, but it actually did hold up after the market started to come down, and that is something I did like about this, is because it was holding up. Eventually when SPY hit those massive tanks, you couldn't really fight that. These spikes as well were influenced by a similar thing, but it's not the same. Now AMD has that news that's guiding it, but the stock market, with its uncertainty, makes people believe that might not be a possibility. But you can see that at open, the stock did not come down. It opened more or less. It started here, came down like barely, and then like 10 cents, I believe, and then fully went the way up. And so this would have been a very good position to take calls on because of news, I think, mostly. And then let's look at Microsoft. And so Microsoft also not really behaving like the market at all, and that's because of news as well. I think you can still get into this position. You just shook out a lot of the premium costs when this happened, because we're at the same price as open, which is true for many stocks right now, that we closed at open. So a lot of these stocks are looking like dojis right now, and after doji, sometimes you get some very clear direction. So that is something I hope to see with Microsoft in this coming week. I will try to come up with a play for this. I don't really have one in mind at the moment. So that's another thing. And then I think yesterday, I said premium selling around the 97 support. Is that what I wrote? Yeah, it is. So it's premium selling around its support. So that would be really good to look at. If you can take it. 97 is a bit low. I think a little bit higher would be a lot better. But yeah, premium selling here would be really interesting, because even if it comes down for Roku, it seems to be holding up around these levels. So 103 is a very good level there. So if that's something you want to keep an eye on. I still do believe the TTM squeezes could work out potentially. I'm not too sure about how or so, but it could. And I want to see the price action that would verify that, because I'm not going to take that position until I do see the volume in the price action to verify something like that. Now, INTC, which I talked about yesterday, it actually did spike up again, did not behave very at all like the market did today, apart from this spike. This is very peculiar behavior. I actually did not watch the stock at all today, so I'm going to go research what happened today, but it is trying to hold above 50, which I can very clearly tell. I think it's very obvious that it found itself above this level. Now it wants to hold it. It's having trouble. You can see that. You can see these massive volume spikes out of here. You can see it right here if you zoom in. You see these huge volume breakouts. These are really good, and then these huge volume tanks as well. So INTC is a very interesting stock to look at, so I'd keep your eyes on this in the coming future, especially in this week. Yep. And then lastly, for NVIDIA, I think I talked about it yesterday that you'd want to be playing this stock downward, which was not correct at all. It actually did end up taking up off even higher, but it did also confirm something for me, that I believe this is going to be a longer-term downward play. We can probably play this for maybe the week, maybe 2 weeks. It might be entering in the down run for itself. So we'll have to see what happens there, but those are some things to keep in mind. Now, this week, I want to say that there's a possibility of lows. I think the market could start slipping. We could hit back into the 290s, the low 290s, which we're already actually in, but I believe we could start hitting back into the 280s, the high 280s, maybe around here, 289. I believe it's possible that we could come back. We could undo this whole event after the ISM release report. So this was Friday, this was the ISM, so I believe that Friday could be undone, potentially. So we'll see how well this 292 level holds up in the coming future. So, so that's something you want to keep an eye on as well. So, with that in mind, I think there's also a possibility of a major pop, because if it holds this level well, and if the news that comes out with China, if the news that comes out from Trump, the tweets, all that stuff, if that comes out to be positive sentiment, these earnings, if they start looking good, they're not coming this week, they're coming in the next 2 weeks, I think. If they look good, then we could start seeing some market pricing in higher moves. We could even go back to 300, I believe, but that would take maybe a little bit longer than this week. Now, the ERs are coming. I just said that. So the TLT credit spreads, I also briefly mentioned that we want to start looking at these. This is on the weekly, so the weekly is really interesting for the TLT because it's a lot less noise. That applies to any stock, but I like the TLT especially on there. But I think this is holding up fairly well. I think you could still sell credit spreads here around 142, 143. As for the market, I mean, we will have to see. This is very certain. We don't know which way it can go, especially after today. We got no sign of direction, actually. The TLT gives us no indication of this because, it's just the TLT. But the SPY, the S&P, gives us no indication of whether or not we're really in for an uptrend or a downtrend. This is just aftermarket news. Or aftermarket movements. This doesn't mean much right now. We will have to wait and see until pre-market tomorrow what happens there, and then maybe then we can start making decisions about which way this thing is moving. But in the meantime, I would just keep an eye out on where the volume is going. Watch level 2. Watch these pieces of information. See how they play out. And then you can probably start making your plays set up. Because you have to be patient in this market right now. Because the way things are moving, this volatility is going to shake everybody out. The best thing you could honestly do is just place a massive iron condor on the S&P 500 and just leave it. You'll probably be profitable at the end of that. So, but I'm not going to do that because, I'm not really interested in collecting on passive premium right now because that's not really that fun. Additionally, it ties up way too much capital. It's just not worth it. So I think that's all I'm going to cover for now. I think, like I said, watch out for volume, watch out for these pieces of information, look out for how the market reacts to open market volatility. If we get a lot of volume in a specific direction, anticipate a turnaround, so do not hold anything for far too long because that might not go your way. I will likely sell my BABA put, which is up 10% currently. I'll probably sell that once it comes around halfway of what it was, if it starts seeing any type of volume and resistivity. So we will see. I will watch that. I will watch its correlation to SPY, so make sure you do that as well if you are playing these. So I think that's it for now. keep these in mind. Watch the Powell's speech. They're pretty important. They're actually quite interesting. A lot of people say they're very boring. I actually really thoroughly enjoy them. I like listening to how he talks because sometimes he signals things. Like, he was very obvious sometimes and very, very not obvious other times. So it's kind of cool to see what he's trying to indicate. Sometimes he's giving false hope, and that false hope gives you a little bit of a lead. Anyway, yeah, so if I actually kind of want this channel to start growing. So if you liked the video, if you get anything from it, if you didn't like the video, just comment, share, like, subscribe, whatever. Let me know what you think. I will come up with more information. I'll probably start making videos on explanations because, I've been doing this long enough to where I think I can probably provide some insight on some other stuff, methods, spreads, strategies, stuff like that. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.